Hey Corrie fans, get ready, because next week on the Cobbles is anything but quiet. From shocking kisses to heartbreaking breakdowns, and even a dangerous temptation that could destroy everything, Coronation Street is turning up the drama from the 14th to the 18th of April. We're diving into 11 explosive spoilers that will leave you yelling at your screen. Why is Todd locking lips with Sarah? What's pushing Sean to rock bottom? And could Abby be on the verge of repeating her darkest mistake? Trust me, you do not want to miss this one, because just when you think you've seen it all, another twist is waiting around the corner. So, make sure you hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and stay with us for all the juicy Corrie drama week after week. Let's get into it. 1. Abby struggles with Carl's presence. Alright, let's talk about Abby, because things are getting seriously complicated next week on the street. So, last week, Abby had a bit of cheeky, flirty banter in Freshco's car park after some bloke pinched her parking space. Nothing major, just a bit of back and forth after a minor bump. But little did she know she'd be seeing that handsome stranger again, and in the most awkward way possible. Later on, while Abby's having a laugh about it with the family in the bistro, she pops off to the loo, and when she comes back, boom, there he is, standing with Kevin and Debbie. And here's the twist. Turns out he's not just some random guy. He's their younger brother, Carl. Abby is absolutely mortified. That harmless flirt had just turned into a full-blown family drama. Now, even though Carl's technically family, the flirty vibes haven't stopped, and Abby's finding it harder and harder to ignore the attraction. She knows it's wrong. She's got a stable life now. Kevin, the kids, things are finally calm, and that's something she's always craved. But here's the problem. There's a side of Abby that's drawn to chaos. The thrill, the danger, it's all coming back. That part of her she thought she'd left behind is starting to wake up again. Carl, of course, isn't helping. He's cheeky, charming, and totally knows what he's doing. And even though Abby can see through it, there's something magnetic about him that she just can't shake. Later on, after one of Kevin's chemo sessions, Abby asks Carl to give them some space. She wants a quiet afternoon alone with Kevin. Carl offers to take Kev to the hospital, which seems helpful enough, until he doesn't come back with him. Abby rings Kevin's phone, and guess who picks up? Carl. Turns out he and Kev are back from the hospital and are now having a drink at the Rovers. Abby is fuming. She storms down to the pub and has it out with Carl, accusing him of ruining her time with Kevin on purpose. And just as they're mid-row, Kevin walks back in from the gents, catching his wife and brother going at it. Talk about awkward. Later in the week, the family all meet up at Debbie's hotel for a wedding menu tasting. What they don't know is that Debbie's been to the memory clinic and might be facing the start of dementia. Instead of telling them just yet, she puts on a brave face and says she wants to enjoy life to the fullest. Meanwhile, Kevin's chemo side effects are really kicking in, and he has to head home early, leaving Abby alone with Carl again. That's when Carl opens up and admits he's in financial trouble. His business in Germany is on the brink of collapse, and he's thinking about going back to sort it all out. Abby tells him Kevin will understand, but deep down she's desperate for him to leave. She wants him gone before things go too far. She knows what's at stake. Her family, her relationship, it all hangs in the balance. And even though she does love Kevin, she can't deny that Carl made her feel something she hasn't in a long time. But she's trying to bury it before it blows everything apart. Finally, when Carl tells Kevin the truth about his situation, Kevin's devastated. He wishes he could help. But the real question is, will Carl stay or will he finally go? 2. Theo has another shock for Todd Wright. Let's talk about Todd, because his love life's about to go from bad to worse. So, last week, we finally found out why Theo's been blowing hot and cold. Todd was starting to fall for him. only to get a nasty surprise when Theo walked into the undertaker's, with his wife, Danielle. Naturally, Todd was livid. You can't blame him. He thought he was getting to know someone, only to find out they're already married. But hold on to your hats, because things are about to get even messier. Next week, Todd's completely shattered. He tells Sarah he hasn't slept a wink because his terminally ill Aunt Julie was in agony all night. Feeling sorry for him, Sarah gives Todd a spare key to her flat, so he can crash there whenever he needs a proper rest. Now, here's where it kicks off again. Theo and Danielle show up at the undertaker's, sorting out arrangements for Danielle's mum's funeral. But Todd's gobsmacked when he sees they've brought along their 2 teenage kids, Miles and Millie. While Danielle and the kids are out of earshot, Theo and Todd only manage to exchange a couple of quiet words. But then, Theo follows Todd back to Sarah's flat and begs him for a proper chance to explain everything. So, is Theo genuinely sorry, or is Todd about to get hurt all over again? 3. Sarah gets drawn into Theo's lies. So, it looks like Todd and Theo managed to clear the air, at least a bit. Todd admits he knows Theo can't promise anything serious right now, but he's still really into him, and wants to keep seeing him, even if it's complicated. Later on, Theo pops out to speed dial, but accidentally leaves his phone behind at Sarah's flat. Not long after, a text comes through from Danielle, and Todd panics. Worried it'll cause even more drama, he begs Sarah to head over to speed dial and give Theo his phone before he sees the message. But here's where it all goes sideways. When Sarah turns up, her trying to help just confuses everything, and ends up making Danielle think that she's the one seeing Todd. Yep, you heard that right. Now Danielle thinks Todd and Sarah are a couple, and the whole thing just gets even more tangled. 4. Todd kisses Sarah. Later in the week, Sarah's meant to be meeting Kit for a proper date at the bistro, but while she's waiting, she grabs a drink with Todd to kill a bit of time. And guess who turns up? Yep, Danielle. Now, since Danielle's still under the impression that Todd and Sarah are an item, Todd feels like he's got no choice but to invite her over for a drink. And Sarah, bless her, has to just go along with it. But then it gets even more awkward. Theo shows up. So now we've got Todd, Sarah, Danielle and Theo all sat together. And just like that, they're on an unplanned double date. Trying to get under Theo's skin, Todd decides to stir the pot and suddenly kisses Sarah, just as Kit walks in and sees the whole thing. Sarah is absolutely mortified. Kit's standing there confused, Sarah's panicking, and now she's got a whole lot of explaining to do. 5. A desperate Sean hits a new low. Meanwhile, over on the cobbles, things are going from bad to worse for Sean. He's still getting pressure from Brody, the lad locked up in the STC, who's now threatening to make Dylan's life a misery, unless Sean does exactly what he says. Sean's already smuggled a burner phone into the STC by sneaking it into Daniel's bag, hoping Dylan would be able to grab it during class. Risky business. But next week, things take an even darker turn. Brody gets Dylan to run a dodgy errand for him, and while he's left alone in Dylan's room, he stumbles across a list of phone numbers, including Sean's. Not long after, Sean gets a call from Brody, demanding £500 in cash. Sean's skint and desperate. He hasn't got that kind of money lying around, but he'll do anything to keep Dylan safe. He goes to Glenda and asks if she can lend him the money, which naturally makes her suspicious. She wants to know what kind of trouble he's really in. Then, over at the factory, there's uproar when George and Eileen discover that the money from Julie's bucket list fund has gone missing. The cash had been collected in a jar to help her tick off her final wishes, and now it's vanished. A little while later, Sean's seen rushing down Victoria Street, texting Brody to say he's got the money and is on his way to meet Brody's contact at the agreed spot. But here's the big question. Has Sean really sunk so low that he's stolen from his dying housemate just to pay off Brody? 6. Daniel discovers Sean's deceit. Desperate to break free from Brody's grip, Sean decides he can't keep it to himself any longer and ends up confessing everything to Daniel. He admits he was the one who slipped the burner phone into Daniel's bag, hoping Dylan would find it. Sean pleads with him to try and get the phone back, saying it could be the key to proving just how dangerous Brody really is. But Daniel's fuming. After all, Sean's stunt could have cost him his job. So now the big question is, will Daniel actually help, or has Sean pushed things too far this time? 7. Daisy discovers Jenny's plan. Over at the Rovers, Daisy's left, gutted when Jenny finally drops the bombshell. Carla's putting the pub up for sale. She's had enough of waiting for the money Jenny and Daisy owe her, and she's pulling the plug. But what Daisy doesn't know is that Jenny's quietly planning to buy the place herself. She's had a £60,000 windfall and is hoping to use it to get a business loan, though she's decided to keep all that to herself for now. Sinking a few drinks and trying to process the news, Daisy's clearly fuming, and when Carla walks into the pub later, Daisy can't help but fire off a few snide remarks her way. That's when Christina overhears Carla telling Jenny she'd be far better off buying the pub without Daisy involved, calling her a spoiled madam in the process. Not one to sit on juicy gossip, Christina pulls Daisy aside and tells her exactly what was said, including the part where Jenny's planning to buy the pub behind her back. And just like that, Daisy and Christina make a pact. They're not going down without a fight. 8. Dee-Dee vows to fight elsewhere in Weatherfield. Dee-Dee's not backing down. She's determined to hold Weatherfield General to account after the terrifying ordeal she went through during labour, one that ended with an emergency hysterectomy. She told the staff over and over that something didn't feel right, but it wasn't until she collapsed that midwife Zoe finally realised she was suffering from a postpartum haemorrhage. Now Dee-Dee firmly believes that the way she was treated had a lot to do with the colour of her skin, and Alia's right by her side, backing her all the way as she prepares to file a formal complaint against the hospital. Next week, Dee-Dee meets with someone from PALS, the Patient Advice and Liaison Service. They tell her they're taking the complaint seriously, and it's looking like Zoe may be the one held responsible. But just as she's leaving the hospital, Dee-Dee spots Asha deep in conversation with Zoe, and she's not happy. She marches over to confront her, but while Zoe says she's sorry for everything Dee-Dee went through, she still refuses to admit she did anything wrong. Later on, Asha pays Dee-Dee a visit and asks her to reconsider the complaint, reminding her that Zoe could end up losing her job. But Dee-Dee stands her ground. She knows what she experienced, and she's not about to let it be brushed under the rug. Not long after, Dee-Dee bumps into Wes, a kind nurse who was there on the day she gave birth. He seems lovely, but what Dee-Dee doesn't know is that Wes is actually Zoe's brother. Then, on Friday, Dee-Dee's gutted to find out that the hospital's finished their investigation, and they've found no wrongdoing on Zoe's part. Feeling let down, Dee-Dee heads to a support group with Alia. She's shocked to hear that every woman there has been through a traumatic birth, proving that there's a much bigger issue going on here. Later, back at the Rovers, Dee-Dee opens up to the group and reveals a staggering fact. Black women are 4 times more likely to die during childbirth. The room goes silent. She then confronts Asha one last time, making it clear, if the hospital won't hold Zoe to account, she'll find another way to make sure justice is done. So the big question is, what exactly does Dee-Dee have planned? 9. Gemma helps Lou score a job. Over at number 5, things get a bit awkward for Gemma when she ends up owing Lou a favour she didn't exactly ask for. Now, Gemma and Chesney have been trying to steer clear of Lou and her husband Mick ever since they found out Mick was the mystery van driver Chesney had that big falling out with. What they don't realise, though, is that Mick knows exactly who Chesney is, and he's playing the long game. Next week, Chesney gets the chance to cover a food festival in London for Dev while he's away, but there's a snag. He's worried about leaving Gemma to juggle all 5 kids on her own. Lou steps in and offers to help with the childcare, and Gemma, grateful for the lifeline, encourages Chesney to take the job. But of course, nothing comes for free, and soon it's Gemma's turn to return the favour. Turns out, Lou's got her eye on a stylist job going at Audrey's salon and ropes Gemma in to sing her praises. Putting on the charm, Lou tries to convince a very sceptical Audrey that she's got the skills for the job. Audrey agrees to give her a trial run, but it's clear she's already wondering what kind of chaos she's just invited through the door. Sex 10, Lou clashes with Maria. It doesn't take long before Asha delivers some news to Gemma. Lou is causing chaos in the salon. Worried, Gemma rushes over to see what's going on and walks in just as Lou and Maria are having a full-blown argument. Things quickly get out of hand, and when Lou throws hair dye at Maria in a fit of rage, Maria's had enough and fires her right there and then. As Lou storms out, Gemma follows her and finds her in a more vulnerable state than expected. Lou opens up to her, admitting she's struggling at the moment, especially because she's terrified for her son, who Gemma had no idea even existed. Who is he, and what's really going on? Later, Audrey decides to give Lou another shot, pointing out how many clients she's brought in, much to Maria's frustration. 11. Doran's sticking around. Next week, Tyrone is over the moon when he finds out that his son Doran will be staying with them longer than expected. Tyrone's ex, Alina, had to send Doran to stay with him last week after her home in Romania was destroyed in a flood. But it looks like it's going to take much longer for Alina to get back on her feet. And while that's bad news for her, it means more time for Tyrone to bond with his son. This also comes as good news for Cassie, who nearly lost her family completely when Tyrone and Fizz threw her out after finding out she'd been spiking Ken. But after an intervention from Evelyn, Cassie's back under their roof. Tyrone admits to Fizz that he's had a change of heart, and spending more time with her grandson might help Cassie sort herself out. Could Doran's presence be the key to healing the family's rifts? And that's all for this week's 11 Coronation Street spoilers, from the 14th to the 18th of April. Things are heating up, aren't they? Which storyline are you most excited to see unfold? Will Abby resist Carl's charm, or will Theo's love life get even messier? And what do you think Dee-Dee's next move will be in her fight for justice? Make sure you don't miss any of the drama. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed the spoilers, and share it with your fellow Corrie fans. We'll be back with more juicy updates next week. See you then.